everybody. Welcome to Big 12 Football and Beyond. I am Chris Landry with another edition breaking down football with you around the Big 12 and all of college football for that matter, as we've got a coaching change within the league already. We've had a couple around the country to this point. We've got a few of these openings. By the way, we're going to get into some of the openings, but where things may play out and how they may settle out going forward. But I think that it is a interesting move going on at Texas Tech, and I think I know where at least they're thinking and why they did what they did. Agree with it or not, we'll see where it goes. But we're going to get into that. We're going to give out some game balls. Iowa State playing good. It's October, heading into November. Developmental teams, well-coached teams get better as the year goes along. That's what they are. That's what they're doing, and that's what we're seeing with them. So we're going to get into that. In that game, I thought it lived up to all the hype, at least the hype I was giving it, Oklahoma State and Iowa State. What's the problem with Oklahoma? Can it be fixed? What's their situation? What was that in the first half against Kansas? Yeah, maybe sleepwalking against Kansas on the road in an early start, but that's kind of how they've looked all year long. What's up with them? We're going to get into that as well. How does the power rankings look? Well, we'll get to that. And we'll break down all the games, obviously. Oklahoma, Iowa State is one of them. We're going to go into both of those teams and how they look. Kansas State, Texas Tech, we're going to talk about that in a bit. West Virginia TCU was the other game that was going on, and again, in addition to Oklahoma and Kansas. It was Texas Tech and Kansas State that was the final straw, clearly, for Matt Wells. Came in to the game against Kansas State with a 5-2 record. They were off to a lead, and they were on their way to being 6-2. Think about this for a second. And I don't want to take up for Matt. I thought Matt did an outstanding job at Utah State. And Texas Tech is a tough place to win. So I'm going to, again, visualize this. You throw last year kind of out, as you do with everyone. They're getting ready to go 6-2 at Tech. They're 5-2. So now they're 5-3. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Then a 21-7 lead over Kansas State in the first half. And, it looked like, hey, look, this is going to be a nice little win. We told you on last week's show this is a big game. For the quality of life of the coach, it's a big win. But then you end up blowing the lead, 25-24. And so what it clearly said to me was they were leaning towards moving on from Matt Wells. This was the final straw to say we're moving on. I don't know that I would say that it's justified. In fact, I don't. I don't also know that I can sit here and tell you that Matt Wells, with another year, was getting ready to turn this program around and turn it on its ears and do things that you don't really see at Texas Tech in Lubbock. Sonny Cumbie's going to take over. I fully believe they must have a strong belief that Jeff Traylor from Texas San Antonio is going to take the job. If not, Sonny Dykes coming home to where he grew up, where his dad was a iconic figure in Lubbock. I think anything other than those two hires, you kind of wonder what they're doing. You're wondering if they're going to get somebody better than Matt. Look, Matt Wells fit the profile of a good coach that builds a developmental program, but in their eyes weren't building it quick enough, and he wasn't a Texas guy, state of Texas guy, and wasn't getting it done there in the state of Texas. He wasn't one of their own. And so what I'm sensing, even from Kirby Holcutt, is that his booster faction, and the Texas Tech boosters are not the same as the Texas or Aggie boosters, but they've got their own. And they wanted one of their own. Kingsbury was one of their own, and it want one of their own. Okay. So they're going to go and get them a Texas guy. I think that's where it's going to be, and I don't know that it's going to get much better. We shall see. Um, but that's what's going on there, and that's where I think it's headed. And I think they may have something um, in the works pretty quickly there. That will be consummated at the end of the year. Looking at the coaching moves that I'm anticipating, or at least I got my eyes on, um, I don't know that I see, outside of Matt with Texas Tech, I don't know that I see another opening taking place inside the league this year. Um, you look at the jobs that are being done in the recent hires. Baylor's in great shape with Dave Aranda. The only opening there at Baylor is if Dave leaves, which timing's probably not right. Same with Iowa State, Matt Campbell if he leaves. Lance is doing a good job and very early at Kansas. Kansas State, Chris is doing a nice job. That's Lincoln were to leave, no change at Oklahoma. Certainly things are going well in Stillwater. Texas new with their coach, and I think there's some frustration going around Neil Brown, but I don't think that anything is imminent there. The one that's interesting that I don't think they're going to make a move on, but is something that people are getting frustrated with, is over in Fort Worth in TCU. We'll get into that game with West Virginia. That is one where there's a lot of frustration. But around the SEC, around the country, Rod Carey at Temple, Phil Montgomery of Tulsa. I think North Texas may have an opening. UMass, I think. I think it could be a big year for openings in the MAC. Maybe Akron, Bowling Green, Miami, and in Ohio. Colorado State, UNLV are possibles. Troy and Texas State are possibles. ACC with Miami, Virginia Tech, maybe Syracuse. I don't know about Nebraska in the Big Ten. We know LSU's got an opening. So those are some of the thoughts around coaching moves, and we'll get into that, and we'll address those as time comes along. Some game balls of the week inside the Big 12. Got to give one to Brock Purdy. What a great job he did. Will McDonald on the defensive side, Iowa State. Those two Iowa State Cyclones were really good. I thought Casey Legg was really good on special teams. Charles Woods, um, well, and Devin, along with Devin Neal, continue to play well as young guys. Purdy was outstanding, though. Was really good. McDonald was all over the field, making a bunch of tackles, and really was a key in that fourth quarter possession to hold off that Oklahoma State comeback. He had a pass breakup, 2 quarterback hurries. He's got 25 sacks. Really, really good player. Really, really good. So, Neal, I thought, played well against Oklahoma, ran the football well. Woods, I thought, did a really good job making plays on the ball against for West Virginia. So those are my game balls of the week. Again, Devin Neal, the running back at Kansas, Charles Woods, the defensive back, West Virginia as newcomers, Casey Legg of West Virginia on special teams. Offensively, Brock Purdy, defensive player Will McDonald, both of Iowa State. So those are the game balls of the week. As we look at the power rankings, I'm seeing them inside the film room. Still got to put Kansas last. They've got Oklahoma State. Look, they played Oklahoma well. They fought hard for 60 minutes, but you could see there was a difference there in terms of being able to finish. Then I probably put Texas Tech there. Again, we could be talking about them going to 6-2, and I don't think they're firing Matt, but I think what they're anticipating, it's a brutal schedule, and they're looking for an ugly ending at Tech, and that they're anticipating a loss. Tech's got Oklahoma next. We know what's happening. And so I think they're going to begin to try to get their guy secured for the future. And Kirby Hallcutt considers the program an elite program. It's not, but that's how he's operating, and don't want to disrespect his viewpoints there. Then I'd have to go with TCU, a disappointing TCU, and put them ahead of West Virginia because, well, that's how it played out. Losing to a winless team in the Big 12, that is, West Virginia, at home. Tough loss. Then I'd go up to Kansas State. The 3-game losing streak, we could, again, be talking differently about Texas Tech had they won that. Kansas State's got TCU this week. Texas, after 2 straight losses, they needed a bye week to regroup. They get Baylor in what is an intriguing game this weekend. Oklahoma State, yeah, they lost to Iowa State, still having a good season. They'll get back on track. They've got Kansas coming up. Not much separates Iowa State and Oklahoma State, and I do think Oklahoma State, much like Iowa State, is going to give Oklahoma a whole heaping, helping load of everything they want towards the end of the year. And then what of Baylor? Man, do we put them at number 2 ahead of Iowa State? I don't know. I guess we got to. They're 6-1, 3-1 in the league. Let's do it. Let's put Baylor 2. I don't know that they're better than Iowa State. We know they beat Oklahoma State. Let's give them there. Let's let them live their moment. Great job, Dave, and this Baylor team. And then, of course, Oklahoma, still the best team in the league, even though they don't look all that impressive on film. So let's take a look at the games. And by the way, join us in the chat room if you got any questions or comment on any of the league games or anything in and out of the league. But the storyline is just the whole improvement of Iowa State as we get into October in the Oklahoma State game. So Oklahoma State goes down and loses their first game into Jack Trice Stadium. Inches short. It looked like Brendan Presley was close. You could certainly review it and say, did he get the first down or not? Could have made a difference. I thought Spencer Sanders played well. I really did. I thought he did a nice job. Oklahoma State was 7-0 in games when Spencer Sanders didn't have an interception, including the matchup against Tulsa when he attempted just 2 passes. I thought Casey Dunn and Gundy, did a good job with him. I thought he was very functional, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Played well enough for him to win. I thought that Iowa State really was patient against Oklahoma State's defense. Jim Knowles, Jim Heacock, 2 good defensive coordinators that if it were me, and I'm a big-time program looking to add a defensive coordinator, I'd go looking at Jim Heacock and Jim Knowles. I think, and give them a lot of money and say, come and do some of that with us. Just 2, but those are 2 that jump to mind that really are good. I thought Purdy had an efficient performance, 27 to 33, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns. Majority of the completions went for less than 10 yards. But they did a methodical, conservative approach. They made enough big plays. They got beat in the second half at times in the second half, but Oklahoma State overall was stout against the run. They held Iowa State to 67 net yards rushing. So I thought, with Breece Hall he had 21 carries for like 70 yards, and you get the negative yards. That's where the 67 yards come off the sacks. It's dumb in college football how they do it. But I thought it was a patient, crafty offensive performance by Iowa State to get that done. There were 2 times that Oklahoma State elected to kick a field goal on 4th and short from the Iowa State side of the field. Tanner Brown, he pushed the 50-yarder just right, had enough distance in the third quarter. They faced a 4th and 1 from the 15, missed again from 32 yards. So, look, Brown was 5 for 5. Those are legitimate questions or legitimate issues to discuss, and say, well, wait a minute. Why would you do that? I think those are very, very valid. Um, but the kicker that could have made the difference in a close game, I got no real problem with it personally. Um, what I think's interesting is to see where this Big 12 race goes. I do think that Iowa State and Oklahoma State are very capable of playing with Oklahoma, and I'm curious to see how this plays out. From Iowa State's standpoint, um, Xavier Hutchinson was the go-to guy and was a big-time playmaker for him. I thought Xavier played well. I thought Oklahoma State played tough man-to-man coverage, and Hutchinson won those one-on-one matchups, big-time one-on-one matchups that he won, and um, he wasn't able to break off a lot of big games. It was 5 for 6, 28 yards in the first half. But the 1 yard touchdown pass on fourth down, it opened up the scoring for Iowa State. And I thought that they exploited the mismatch, going to Hutchinson for multiple big plays in the second half. So I thought they did a really good job making halftime adjustments on where they were going to go and attack this Oklahoma State defense. The second offensive play of the half, Purdy found Hutchinson on a slant, and that was the one he was called for taunting, which was a bogus call. When Iowa State got the ball again, they looked for Hutchinson again, and on the third play, it was interfered with. They got the Cyclones 15 yards. Then he went to Hutchinson again, another pass interference call, and then the go-ahead drive in the fourth quarter. So Hutchinson ended up with 12 receptions, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. In a game like that, that was a huge difference. The biggest mismatch difference was with Hutchinson. And Oklahoma State missed opportunities. Iowa State might have forced a turnover in the game, might not have forced a turnover in the game, but 2 missed field goals are like a turnover. When you miss a field goal, it's like a turnover, folks. So that was a real big factor. No problem going for it, but you better make those field goals. I thought Iowa State was effective more so than Oklahoma State with the sustained drives, 9 plays, 68-yard drives, stalled deep, but they were able to make some field goals. 10 of Iowa State's 24 points came from 2 missed field goals, meaning the turnovers of the missed field goals. So really was um, the difference. Spencer Sanders, I thought, had a good game against Iowa State's defense. Again, I talked about how well I think their scheme, but I thought the quarterback play really exposed some of it. I thought that Oklahoma State shut down Iowa State's run game in the first half, but I thought Iowa State was patient with it, and again made enough plays in the passing game was the difference. So that was kind of my thoughts in the game, and I again came out very impressed with both of the teams. Um, it wasn't pretty. In fact, it was ugly for Matt Wells and Texas Tech. It wasn't maybe pretty for Kansas State, but they were able to get it done, and I was impressed with what they were able to do. Um, I thought that, uh, you know, 12 penalties and 2 turnovers is not the formula for Kansas State to win games, which is, again, part of the reason why I think it was maybe such an ugly loss for Texas Tech in that Kansas State gave Tech every chance to win it and maybe win it going away. The defense Kansas State gave up a touchdown on 2 plays, then a kick return, returner Malik Knowles fumbled, and it set up Tech TD. So it was 14-0 with 11:31 remaining in the first half, and Skylar Thompson and the offense hadn't even touched the ball yet. So Tech built a 24-10 lead, and then that's when everything started to really change. So um, I give a lot of credit for the resiliency for Kansas State. Kleiben, lots of adversity in the game. I thought they came back, made plays when they had to. They settled a little bit on defense. It's a team win, a tough win, found their stride a little bit. But, it was really more a lot about what, you know, Tech's RPO offense would, at times gave them a little bit of trouble when they ran it twice on the first possession and then they broke contain. But as the game progressed, I thought Kansas State really did a good job of adjusting to it. So they didn't play well, but they were able to get out there with a victory. Um, for Tech, it's more big picture now. The record and the timing of it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I get what they're trying to do. I don't know whether they're going to pull it off or not. I think they're looking at, to me, in my mind, the right thing to do would be to do what you need to do behind the scenes and let Matt go out and play the rest of that schedule. I know it's not pretty. Oklahoma, bye. Iowa State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Baylor. I get it. There are 4 more losses coming, whether it's Sonny Cumbie or Matt Wells. I get it. Let Matt work his way. I mean, look, he had a chance to go. It was 5-2. Let him end up 5-7. Let that play out. And at 5-7, you could say, you know what? It's time to make a move. It's not that there's a great threat of upsetting any one of those teams, but it was like they're clearly wanting to move on now, and they want to get an early start. So we'll see how this plays out. I've mentioned before, I think Jeff Traylor and Sonny Dykes make the most sense. I think it's a good job. I don't think it's a great job. I don't think you can win big there, but I think you can have some success. You can be competitive. You can go to bowl games. But you know what? They were this close. This close, Matt Wells was to getting bowl eligible. And in my opinion, 6-6 at this stage at Texas Tech this year should have been, would have been, in my opinion, good enough for Matt to keep his job. So, look, they better hit it big with Jeff Traylor or Sonny Dykes. They better come, and the offense better look like they want it to look, and they want to get one of their own guys. They need to do that, because if they don't do it, there will be a problem. There will be some frustrations that I think are gonna hit folks. So, I think those are things that we need to look at. Um, West Virginia TCU. I tell you, I thought TCU was going to be a pretty good team this year. The defense is a mess. They're losing the turnover battle. Tons of penalties. It's the 4th straight mediocre season. I'm wondering how they're going to fix it, what they're going to do to fix it, what's going to be the mantra of how they go about it. Um, mm, mm, mm. I think you're getting some play out of the backs that are pretty impressive. But I'm really concerned about this TCU team right now. I thought Sean Ryan, um, was fantastic. They need more consistency. I'm really, really concerned about what they're doing there. Um, for West Virginia, I think this is a team that um, fought hard, played well. I thought they did a good job in the red zone. I mentioned Sean Ryan. Um, I think that Letty Brown ran well. I think Reese Smith and Wright were also pretty good at the receiving core. Doge is getting better. I just don't know that we're seeing enough there. I don't, defensively, they've taken a bit of a step back, and that was a strength early in the year. But we'll see what they can do the rest of the season. They've got Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas, and Kansas. So they've got to make hay against Kansas State and Kansas. I don't like their chance against Iowa State and Oklahoma State. So you've got a mediocre West Virginia team that I think they're getting concerned about whether Neil Brown is the guy and kind of where their identity is in the Big 12, less so now. But the TCU team, let's get into that. They've fallen below the 500 mark, as I mentioned, and a lot of expectation for them. It's a low point there. Booze coming out. I don't think Gary's in trouble. They've got a statue of the guy, but it can't last forever. They're 12-2 at home over the last 4 years. Second worst among Big 12 teams. Only Kansas has a worse record at home. So there's got a lot of problems there. They did a good job, West Virginia did, of corralling Zach Evans. They thought did a pretty good job in featuring Quentin Johnson over the last two games, but they shut down Duggan, they shut down Evans in the running game, and they were forced to go to the passing game. And when they're forced to go in the passing game, they're not real effective. Uh, Defensively, they're not creating turnovers. And that's something that they are known for and they're very good at, and they're not doing that. They're not rushing the passer, and that's why they cannot generate any turnovers. Um, so Quentin Johnson's a positive. Um, we'll see where this plays out. Um, tough game. Want to give Kansas some props in the game against Oklahoma. I think we should. Yeah, it was, again, a cold, sleepy morning in Lawrence. And for Oklahoma, go to 8-0. They escaped. Caleb Williams only had 5 incompletions and made a game-saving play, and he can do that. He can certainly give you more in the run game. It wasn't a good performance by the running backs in the game. Thought the receivers, Brooks did finish with 79 yards, but wasn't as much of an impact. Hazelwood and Hall and West were adequate at the receiver tight end spots. Nothing special. I thought the offensive line was very average. Gave up 3 sacks. It couldn't keep Kansas out of the backfield. The defensive line got pushed around by Kansas. I mean, think about that for a second. You're better than that. The linebackers did a little bit defending the run, but not a lot. In the secondary, look, with Key Lawrence stepping up, this was still enough a rough outing, even with his play. They're too small, and they can't defend 50-50 balls. Give kudos to Kansas. They put points on the board a little bit more. They were trailed by only 2 possessions late. It might be a different outcome. But they were not able to make enough plays. They made crucial mistakes. A field goal was missed. Was a different factor. The offense has got to get more playmakers. Got to spread the football around. They got to get more consistency. But I thought the effort, I thought the attitude is a sign of positive positivity there. This week, as I mentioned, we've got Baylor, Texas, going to Baylor, which is going to be a huge game. Iowa State at West Virginia. Kansas at Oklahoma State. You've got TCU at Kansas State. Oklahoma hosting Texas Tech. And that's it. That's it with Iowa State going to West Virginia. So the pivotal matchups, I'm very curious with Baylor, Texas. I am intrigued a little bit with Kansas State, TCU. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's in terms of the games. I'll be monitoring them all. We're going to break them all down for you inside the film room. But no feature games, although Texas Baylor came close. We'll have that breakdown for you over at LandryFootball.com. So check that out and take advantage of the football season sale. So we'll keep you up to date there as well on all of the coaching search stuff at Texas Tech. And if anything emerges on staffs around the league or around the country, we're going to have it for you. Want to remind you to check out the Landry Football Podcast later today, as I will be getting into more coaching search stuff. And want to remind you before we head on out, if you're into sports betting, you know just how quickly the lines can change. And when you've got a lot riding on those odds, it pays to stay ahead of the curve. So before placing your bets, listen to the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM for the best betting analysis and information. They are fun, informative, and extremely helpful. A lot can change between last night's game and today's odds. The Daily Tip gives you an early look at all the angles. Hosts Michael Jenkins and Chelsea Messinger break down the big takeaways and make sure you know everything you need to be a smart bettor. Um, with featured guests like bookmakers, Odyssey insiders, and BetMGM experts, you've always got a fresh take on the action. Your friends will be wondering what you know that they didn't. Not that you have to tell them where you heard it. As much fun as it is to bet on games, it's even more fun when you've got the inside scoop. Ready to bet with an edge? Tune in to the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM. Listen weekdays at 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern on Odyssey, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. So, again, check us out over at LandryFootball.com. We appreciate if you would sign up, register for Big 12 football and beyond wherever you get your podcast. That tells us whether you like the show, whether you'd be interested in us keeping it. Don't just tell us, hey, yeah, we like to have you. We need the numbers to justify doing it. So that'll determine whether we continue this show and the others part of the network. We appreciate you. Check us out again, the football season sale at LandryFootball.com. And check us all out at LandryFootball.com. All these podcasts, just sign up and listen over there. Appreciate you joining us. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.